The deal is this. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson always real. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson always real. Yeah, I'm pissed. Yeah, I'm pissed. Come on. What? Okay, by the time we finish this, you're all going to be practicing magicians.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, where Gary and I are discussing every issue of Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. We have finished up the first major chunk of the series. So we have dealt with the entity known as Cassandra Nova, revealed to be Xavier's sister that he attempted to murder in the womb. Basically a bodiless, emotion energy they have now trapped into a space goo and are teaching how to be cool. And from here, we're going to go into just something completely different. Like a little one-off issue.
Yeah, we have got some kind of space filler issues until we get back into the plot, which is something comics used to do. It feels like now they don't. I don't know if that's actually true, but this feels very of its time to me.
Yeah.
With New X-Men 127, written by Grant Morrison, another new artist. This is an artist with the last name Leon. I do not know their first name. At first, I got very John Paul Leon. I got very excited because I thought it was Bill Sienkiewicz doing the art. I think he just does the inking or coloring.
Yes.
In this. And the cover is by Frank Quitely, which is great. Xorn levitating and considering a fast food cheeseburger.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Very good.
And this is a Xorn issue. This is a Xorn highlight short story that's very affecting and sad and like pretty good.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And I think it's at this point, like we don't have the reveal on who Xorn is, but we for reading this through the first time and without knowing that, I was insanely curious who Xorn was. Like I just had to know more because it just felt like he was introduced and he's got this incredible ability, this star in his head, and he can heal, and you just don't know what that means on a day-to-day basis. Like obviously he was extremely instrumental in saving the planet from Cassandra Nova, but now going into like a day in the life or a Xorn on the street kind of situation was really fun.
Sure. Yeah. Xorn in the street, Xorn in the sheets.
Yes.
And this is all taking place this is an epistolary, this is a letter, which ends up being important to the twist here. So this issue is called Of Living and Dying. Starts off with the X-Men dealing with some riots in Mutant Town. At the same time that Grant Morrison took over the X-Men run, there were kind of a line-wide push for things, which included a pretty good series called Mutant X, which was Bishop being the sheriff of Mutant Town. The first arc of which is really good. This is some bad riots going down in Mutant Town, like anti-mutant riots.
I recently read that first arc of Mutant X because I was just interested in some Bishop stuff, and it holds up really, really well. We should probably do it at some point. It's really good.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I haven't read it since it came out, and the second arc is not great, but the first one is good.
Yeah,
so I remember that.
I think it'd be a good week or two of that. So
yeah, that'd be fun. So we kind of see, and the reason why the humans are all riled up is because there's a monster. Like basically, like why would we can't calm down? There's a monster here. She's like, there's not a monster. And it's like, well, you gotta tell that to my dog, and it holds up a leg of their dog. Like something has escaped and eaten part of this dog.
Yes. And the crowd quickly turns on the X-Men, who are trying to calm it down, and starts throwing debris and trash and rocks at them, which of course Jean protects them with a little psychic bubble. And Xorn asks the obvious question of like, we only want them to stop hurting one another. Why are they so angry?
Yep. Which is something you could also put in the mouth of the real Xorn. We cut over to later where Xorn is talking to Xavier, who's doing some mechanics work.
Sure.
With a wrench, like Mechanic Xavier first appearance.
Love it. Xavier with the pipe wrench in the danger room. Let's make a Clue version of the X-Men.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I bet you there's an X-Men Clue. out there. I bet you it's insufferably dumb.
I own the Supernatural clue, and it is it is extremely dumb. So I can only imagine the X-Men clue is. Yeah.
And this is basically just giving Xorn and Xavier some time. Xavier says, like, I don't know you very much, but like, you saved a lot of people. My students speak very well of you. And Xorn is basically saying, like, why are humans like this? And Xavier has his theory is basically like, well, one of the ways that they survived for so long was they gathered in groups, and having a group means you have an in group and an out group. So this kind of tribalism that they have is a way of facing the chaos and surviving. But it's our duty to kind of, now that everyone's under one big roof, like the effect is magnified. It's our duty to kind of build these bridges.
Yeah.
Here.
And that's what he envisions the X-Men to actually be doing.
Yep.
And like, I like this conversation. Like, this feels like a very philosophical conversation between two guys who are
have had philosophical conversation.
But also older, like, right? Like they've experienced in the ways of the world in one way or the other, even though Zorn's experience is relatively limited. Like, he should still know quite a bit. And yeah, just like this, no one should suffer in chains. And, as they are actually like fixing Cerebro, which I think is just really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Xorn says, hey, can you use Cerebro to find this monster? He's like, I can do that after I fix this, fix the machine. Until then, go look for the monster and go like beat the feet. Go and do some footwork.
Yeah.
Talk to the people in the city.
Go talk to people.
Yeah.
And then he, I think Xorn says something like, oh yeah, here it is. Sometimes I miss the certainty of my iron cell. Like, it was easier to be a prisoner and not have to worry about anything than it is to actually, be a person and go out there into the world and try to fix things, which is what I'm good at. He says, can you look into my mind and see the turmoil? And he says, and Xavier responds, I see orchards in China, a star falling across the sky, and a radiant star of pure thought. So,
yep. Yeah, he cannot read into his mind.
Yes.
So we cut over to this epistolary, Xorn writing this letter, where it's him doing this narration of spending time in the city, getting to know people, talking about his history in China, talking about, a man who lives in Chinatown, who is there, basically philosophically kind of pontificating. I
Yes.
think of myself as a man of peace as somebody throws a pop can at his head.
Yeah.
And we cut over to Mutant Town, just like what's happening, and it looks awesome.
Yes.
It's the Alphabet District, and two cops are talking about that basically. Like, we have the gays in one part of the town, we have poets in another part, anarchists here, and now the mutants are here in Alphabet City.
I love the X Factor building in the background, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's a great little touch.
Mutants just like flying around, like one Sauron looking motherfucker. A Human Torch clone just like standing there being a Human Torch, like not a mutant sleeping on top of a car for some reason. Like, what the fuck is going on in Mutant Town?
His power is to sleep anywhere. So.
And this is where that line you mentioned in the last episode comes in. If there is no word for monster in any mutant dictionary. Which is interesting because like mutant language isn't a thing that I don't think that the series has explored. They get into a little bit. They get into a lot of that with the Houses of 10, Powers of 10 thing. And it's like the idea that there's a mutant dictionary and words don't exist in it. I think is really evocative.
Yeah, and the cops are trying to explain to each other, and that's kind of a through line of this run is like humans trying to understand this stuff and not being very good at it. Which I kind of like. The one cop's like, "What are they talking about?" Do you know what he's talking about? He's like, "Yeah, pretty much." He's saying that Mutant Town is the wrong place to look for the freak. It's a Zen thing. Just kind of thinking they get it.
It's a Zen thing. Eugene is a really great line.
That's Eugene. Funny. That's great. So Xorn is going up to kind of investigate and finds the monster. He finds this woman sitting with this like gigantic, like really great looking. Like, I love the way this mutant looks.
Yes.
Kind of like Rhino Man, lying on a couch, very sad, sponging his forehead off. And it's like, this is actually my son. Like, he only got out once a long time ago. He ate that dog, but he's, I can't remember how old he is. He's like, he's 12.
Yeah.
It's just like immediately, whenever somebody is just very young and like has to go through this kind of shit, it is a real laser guided missile to my heart.
Absolutely.
Like that kind of thing makes me sad. And it's just he's 12.
The design on this monster too, like it gives me major Hellboy vibes, which I'm never going to complain about. Like it just looks like one of those like kind of big, like almost rock-like organic creatures somehow. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. And yeah, like this is instantly sad because he's just laying there on the couch while his mom takes care of him, and like the mom is so distressed. She actually literally asks Xorn, like, "Are you death? Are you here to come take us? Like, this would be like I'm a human. Why isn't he a human?" Like, she is just completely distressed at having to deal with this situation, as moms with like kids are like this are.
Yeah, and there's some guilt too. So the reason why he got out and kind of blew their cover was because she had to go out and get medicine. It's the only time she left him, and he got out at this point. Really, really sad. And Zorn's like, no, he's not a mutant. He's not a monster. He's a mutant. Like, he's not going to be alone. And she's like, no, he'll be a monster. And I took half these pills and gave half to him. Like, it's nothing, it's not hateful. I just can't have him hanging from a traffic light and people celebrating his death. Like, I can't see that. Yeah, it's very humane.
I don't want to see people cheer while government robots trample him into mush is a powerful line. And like, you don't really think about, like, the X-Men has not explored, the parents. They have it to some degree, I guess, with Iceman and Kitty Pryde and things. But like the parents, like, this is a family splitting thing. Like, right, like this, especially in the time of this is happening. Like, being a mutant kid it's putting a flag on your door to invite all kinds of hatred, and that could be extraordinarily stressful, especially for a parent who probably doesn't even really give a fuck about mutants at this point until they had one, right? Like that's always a hard thing to deal with. And yeah, this is just so heartbreaking to see that she tried to kill herself and her son together.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very sad. Xorn is saying, like, hey, those pills you swallowed are damaging you. Like, there's nothing wrong with your son. Stay here and I'll get help. And she dies at this point, or passes out, and this wakes up the son.
Mm-hmm.
Zorn's like, yeah, I can help. You're just not completely grown yet, but he's starting to lose it.
Yeah, and he immediately blasts Xorn out of the wall and into the street below, where he crashes onto the police car. And like, of course, the cops see this and immediately start arming up. And then Sonny, this enormous monster, starts piling through cops left and right. And I love this panel of like Xorn getting up out of the fire and saying, "Not yet grown. In 10 days, he would have become something new and wonderful."
Yeah,
something that nobody has seen before, something rare, something unique. But all he's doing is plowing through looking for medicine for his mom, because he's a 12-year-old kid and he doesn't know any better.
Yep, and his mom is dying from suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to do both. And he's, Xorn is still monologuing. This, in just a couple days, you'd become something totally new, something we'd never seen before, something unique and rare. As this monster child is rampaging, just saying like, medicine, help mom, knocks Xorn out of the way. The cops start firing, and Xorn is trying to get them to stop, but they won't because they're scared. And then a guy with a flamethrower comes up and immolates him.
Although, boy, like, if there was anybody around that was pretending to be Xorn that could maybe stop some bullets before it hit somebody.
Well, that's the thing, because this, again, the fact that this is a letter, is unreliable. But it's very sad. Still a good story.
Extremely so, yeah. And the flamethrower guy lights it up. I didn't realize up until this point that he was actually carrying his dead mother. Which is just, once again, heartbreaking.
What are you, a Dark Souls boss? Like, what the fuck?
Get out of here, blasphemous!
Yeah,
Trey Anguinistas, get the fuck out of here!
So he collapses, dying, and Xorn is just repeating himself. Like, in 10 days, it would have been all right. He would have awakened to his potential, and one of the cops is like, "Fuck that." And the thing about the cops being here is so shitty. Is this is the frustrating thing we talk about, how this the struggle is portrayed in this book is like, he was just going around killing people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that like I'm not on the side of them, but he probably was very dangerous and needed to be stopped.
Sure.
And
this is just another example of, why police are broken as a rule, right?
Yes.
This is a complete, because I've seen, a bunch of articles written about trying to replace police with like local emergency responders and like actual people who have been trained in therapy and how to talk somebody down, as opposed to somebody with a gun. And like, this definitely seems one of those times, although, hey, at the same time, there's a huge monster running around destroying shops. Like, you're going to try to shoot that, especially if you presumably live in New York where Spider-Man is and you've seen this kind of stuff before.
Yeah. It's really hard to say who was right and who was wrong during this.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it a good story. Is there was none of that, right? Like, there's no villain or hero in any of this. And like this full page spread that we see, like, people hauling away Sonny's body, and also Xorn healing people that have been wounded, and the EMTs out. Like it is a joint effort. That's humans and mutants working together at the same time, and it's a shame that it took like that to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of humanity to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut over to him wrapping up his letter. Again, just kind of pontificating, like philosophically pontificating. And this is a letter to Xavier, basically saying, you tried to look at my thoughts, you couldn't, so I tried to capture my thoughts in these words. But these lines and curves are not actually like the feelings, that I'm having. Like this doesn't actually capture the enormity of what I'm feeling about this.
And him and the old man that he spoke to earlier, who they had a shared history together. They were from the same area. They basically start talking, and the old man says, like, "Do you remember this guy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember him. I used to go there and pick up. I used to go visit my aunt who would in that town. I know him from there." And I love this like final line of, "And while the rain falls, we talk of living and dying below the lake of heaven." And just like talking about the art for a minute, it's obviously raining. Everything has these like real dark tones, except for Zorn's eyes, which are very, very bright blue. Like everything is just really, really moody, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very appropriate for like a single issue short story breather. But next issue, we're back to Igor Cordy, baby.
Oh joy!
So just don't get comfortable, folks. But this issue is really, really good. This is just very touching. I love done in one issues like this, and it's rare. They're rarer and rarer. It feels like
it's not very good trade paperback fodder, which I think is probably like I feel like comics has started to be written for trades and not necessarily single issues at some point, which is fine. Like I read trades most of the time. Like I don't really like reading stuff month to month because I don't have the patience for it. So I'm the bad comics fan, everybody, but these one and done kind of issues, especially when they get into some of the nitty gritty stuff without trying to solve any of the nitty gritty problems, I think are really interesting and fascinating. And Grant Morrison does good work in that area in general.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and that's going to be it for this episode. Yep. We're starting a brand new multi-issue arc. Phantom X.
Phantom X.
Phantom X, baby.
Not Phantom X, but no. Phantom X.
Phantom X. He's back, baby. So we're going to be introducing him. Thank you for sticking with us. If you like the show, the best things you can do are go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, support the entire network, join us on the Slack, chat about comics with us, and leave us ratings and reviews on Apple Podcast. Those are both great things.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who has done that. We've gotten a bunch of good reviews in lately, and it just feels really great that people are with us on the format change. So we really appreciate that. We'll be back in a couple weeks with that new arc. Until then, Umbasa.
Umbasa.